All right, let's see. Hey y'all, what up though? So as I ain't gonna say promise because I ain't promised nobody shit, but as stated, I'm going to recently discuss. I know I made a live like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I mentioned that I wanted to start going through the process of healing my inner child, and everything, because I've been going through this cycle of life, and it's been not just one situation, one incident. It's just been a repeated, daunting, like torturous cycle of how would I put it? Just finding myself entertaining platonic friendships, romantic relationships, or relationships that never served for my higher good. It was often one-sided. It was never really reciprocal. Like, I was given everything, and I didn't receive hardly nothing. And the things I did receive was a lot of negativity, gossip, lies, being told on me. My lane was always in somebody's slander or part of somebody's slander story, all the things. So it developed a lot of insecurities inside, with how I related to myself, how I relate to other people, all the things. So on. So first and foremost, I wanted to say rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner. Did not expect to hear him out of all people joining the ancestors today, but wishing him a peaceful transit or transition to heaven and everything, and with his ancestors. So but let that go. Also, so back to my series. This series is not for me, it's not my intent to sit up here and slander people or to lie about people or to drop their tea or share whatever I know about their personal business. It has nothing to do with that. It's more so me sharing my personal experiences in my childhood and addressing how each of those experiences really dictated and, it impacted me either in a positive way or a negative way. Unfortunately for me, a lot of the incidents and situations I endured during my childhood did impact a lot of, the way I felt myself, my internal dialogue, and my self-esteem, of course, and also like my self-worth, my worth, my value, and then also created different complexes within myself and the means of how I relate to other people, how I, and then the people I entertain in my distant past and my most recent past. So they're all interconnected. So again, me sharing my testimony of my direct experiences with the people who shaped my past in my childhood is not really to focus on who they are as a person, and it's not to sit up here and just air out all their dirty laundry. It's more so just to explain and express how their treatment or mistreatment of me, how it impacted me, how it, made me feel, of course, and, trying to dispel and trying to figure out, it took me to this lifelong process of trying to figure out how to destroy those negative internal dialogues that I had developed, or, the ones that's been projected onto me. And so here it goes. So this is what I've written down, and I'm going to go ahead and read it out. So in the beginning, it is my humble and that's the title of it. It is my humble belief that the beginning of one's conception story can help unlock the deeper energetic and spiritual outcomes of how a soul is received and treated within a family dynamic or those within their external environment. Since I have not yet received a clear, concise answer from my mother or any of her relatives on my conception or my paternal father's identity, I have decided that I am going to discuss some of my theories of my origin story. I had always been intrigued as to the intention behind the conception of my existence. For instance, I found myself questioning the first meeting introduction of my mother and my father. What, if any, physical, mental, or emotional attraction ignited betwixt them, or whether their meeting occurred just out of random happenstance. Besides my pure inquisitive nature of needing to understand the what was beneath the circumstances of my conceptual existence, I looked to make a connection for my suffering under the circumstances within my mother's family in relations of being void of knowledge with the identity of who could have been my biological father. My curiosity of my biological father's identity began around the age of 10. Why wait to age 10, you may ask? Well, that was the age where I came to the internalized deduction truths. Number one, my stepfather, or deceased stepfather, Martin Biles, was not my biological father, although he, having raised me since 18 months of age. My brother's father, James Sr., was not my biological father. I never felt that he was any relation to me on a spiritual or energetic level. So, therefore, it appears safe to assume that my mother never had any intention on revealing the truth about my biological father's paternity, regardless of how many times I've questioned her from age 12 until I conceived around age 28. However, there were a few opinions expressed to me about the potential blues clues of the identity of my biological father, that is. Case in point, my sister and her cousin Wanda mentioned that my mother had allegedly conceived me with some white male who they speculated to be a sexual customer of hers. My stepfather or my brothers never alluded to who could have been my father, for they did not know of his identity. However, I must say that my brother James did admit to me sometime during my adolescence that he did not believe him and I shared the same biological father, which I agree. Around age 21, my Uncle Michael, mother's brother, did recant a time when he briefly met a male who he believed to have been being my biological father. My uncle explained to me that he ran into some males that my mother was hanging around, some male that my mother was hanging around at a local diner in Knoxville, Tennessee. He goes to provide the description of the male acquaintance my mother entertained as a light-complected, medium height black male who had some Asian background due to his slanted eyes and subtle Asian features. My uncle noted that this male persona appeared quiet and meek, yet showed some signs of being a high-functional autistic person. He didn't say that way, but he pretty much alluded to it. So, anyways. Hey, Tiff. Thanks for joining me on my live. Let's see. I must say that my uncle's recollection of my paternity and my father was the closest possible description that I could have envisioned mentally. Nevertheless, the speculations of the actual identity of who my biological father could be or could have been, the fact remains that I have not yet had the opportunity to meeting this male figure in this lifetime. I must admit that my desire with knowing my biological father stemmed from me trying to understand the following. Number one, why I never felt loved or cared for by many of my mother's immediate family. Number two, I wondered if I would have suffered from my childhood sexual abuse due to my mother's voluntary neglect, if he was an active presence in my life. And I'll explain that in a later live, why I say my mother's voluntary neglect. Number three, I rationalized that the vast majority of my childhood trauma, rejection, and abandonment circumstances resulted from me not having any awareness or connectivity with my biological father. And four, would I have found a sense of familiar acceptance, nurture, validation, and love amongst my father and his relatives if they had known about my existence? I suppose that by having these thoughts ruminate through my mind space was my childlike way of thinking, hoping, and wishing that I could somehow manifest my father into my life in the physical. Unfortunately for me, I still have not, as of yet, met my biological father. Thus, I sometimes feel as though there is a missing link to complete the totality of rationale background behind my existence on this planet. However, I now understand in my childhood that there is not always a guaranteed positive outcome that would have came from me knowing or having my biological father in my life. I mean, in seasons past to current time, or say, hearing, reading, and viewing the case studies with many of the tragic stories of mental, psychological, emotional, spiritual, or sexual trauma which children were victim to or fell victim to from the hands of their own biological father and sometimes mother, led me to seriously reconsider if my biological father's absence was a hindrance or rather a divine protective blessing in disguise. I have recently reconciled with my biological father's absence by arriving to the conclusion and understanding that one's rejection only served as God's protection and redirection of your life. That, and I simply grew tired of asking my mother only to be misled down to unnecessary wild goose chase in hopes of finding this missing parental figure. I also understood that my father's absence did not stop me from carrying out of my life's goals or achievements earned from my hard work and efforts. In fact, the lackluster support I was recipient of from my mother's children, and her relatives were not enough to halt my progress from carrying out any of my self-determined goals. For instance, I have graduated from Murray Wright with honors. I proved to myself that I was capable of adulting and keeping up with my household needs with minimum aid during my early 20s. I enlisted in the United States Navy, graduated from RTC Great Lakes, and was honorably discharged from the Navy as of 2010 without any help from my mother or her family. I've gotten married, became a homeowner of 2 properties to date, and reared 4 children with absolutely no support from my mother's children or family. I attended college and graduated with a 3.6 GPA, receiving my bachelor's degree in public health from the University of North Texas as of December of 2022. Shouts out to University of North Texas. Without any expression whatsoever of any support or a simple congratulatory phone call or Facebook post from any of my mother's children or her family members. Never mind, I achieved my bachelor's all while raising 4 children, diligently supporting 2 of my middle children who are persons living with special needs, maintaining a 2,600 plus square foot home, navigating a toxic co-parenting relationship as a consequence from the separation/divorce from my now ex-husband, doing my best to maintain my peace betwixt myself and my teenage daughter, all while working full-time at the Tarrant County Public Health Department as an epidemiologist, shortly before my college graduation, etc. I mean, damn, it's a miracle that I survived many of life's challenges without going insane, suffering from a nervous breakdown, choosing to self-medicate in the form of drug abuse, or caving into seeking approval in the means of engagements in sexual promiscuity, etc. By the way, I have made life choices that mostly aligns with my highest good, with little support from my mother and without any support from my biological father, mother's children, or family. Therefore, I now wonder if I ever truly needed my father's presence in my life. And yes, there are some father issues that I suppose that I may have in ways of his absence. For instance, I suppose that my taste and choice in males needs for a complete upheaval, rebranding, and repurposing. Yes, it does. I think that my father could have chosen to school me about the games that many of these fuckboys males like to play. It could have been beneficial for my moral and self-worth for my biological father to have affirmed me, especially during my developing years into womanhood, that would have built my self-esteem and self-worth and value earlier in life. Knowing what I now understand about the importance of that loving, nurturing plays in a that loving nurture plays in to positively affect someone's self-esteem, worth, or value. I feel that the pain stemming from my biological father's absence pales in comparison to the emotional neglect, abuse, rejection, abandonment, and dismissiveness, and narcissism. I forgot to put narcissism. I was victim to by my mother, her children, and her family. All right. So, hey lady, hey Tiff. I hope you was able to withstand all of that. I've typed it out. I started like last week and I completed it yesterday. So yay me. But yeah, to elaborate, I used to feel like or wonder if my biological father was in my life to protect me, or maybe he could have protected me from my mother's male friend Leslie from being raped by him at 4, right? Because that's what happened. I was raped by my mother's friend at age 4, and I will further elaborate that when I read the letter I addressed to my mother. I sure will. But thank you, girl. I'm letting this out because the thing is, Tiffany, I don't want to keep repeating the cycle. I am so fed up with, oh, this hair is sticking up. Why is this hair sticking up? Whatever. Look, don't be clowning me in the comments. I'm like, her hair sticking up and lies. Fuck you. Come do something about it or shut up. Anyway, so that's a side note. But no, I've been going through this cyclical, like, patterns, right? Because everything we learn about ourselves, about how we relate to other people, all of that stuff starts in family pattern in childhood. And so I've been doing a lot of thinking like I always do, but more so now than ever that, I wonder if my mom was a narcissist. I wonder if she had deliberately did things to pin this sibling against this sibling, because I have 3 other siblings, right? Her children or whatever. And I wonder, I'm starting to wonder, has she deliberately plotted out like which sibling she's gonna favor, which sibling she's gonna, pin against each other, or I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out because I'm like, none of us talk to each other. Me and my mother's children, we don't have no relationship, we never really had a good, healthy relationship in childhood, but we definitely don't have a relationship now. Well, they don't have a relationship with me, at least. I'm scapegoated. Yeah, I know. Because out of all of them, they decided to repeat the cycles, and for whatever reason, I don't know if they ever sought out help, but me being the youngest, I decided at age 10 that I needed help. And so me going through my journey, starting with my, elementary, middle school social worker, Sheila Turner, which I am so thankful to have known her in the time that, she was in my life, from age 10 to like the time I graduated from Spain, elementary, middle. It just started the process of me going on this journey of trying to understand what was wrong with me. In my mind, I thought something was wrong with me, right? That's how everybody else made it seem like, oh, Jamie, something wrong with you. Maybe it's you. Maybe you weird. Maybe you this. Maybe you on the spectrum. Maybe you are this. Okay. And, I used to internalize that, like, in my mind, because that's where some of the really negative core beliefs came upon, right? So when people would project their negative, impressions on me, and I'm talking about my mother's family or her children, and, even people on the outskirts, they would project a lot of their toxic, negative predictions, or outlooks on who I was, even before I entered like my adolescence and shit. So they were already, like, for instance, I would hear like scuttlebutt or rumors and gossip amongst, her daughter, her oldest daughter Avian, and James and Andre, which is my 2 other siblings. Like, oh yeah, Jamie gonna be just like her mom. She gonna be just like Jackie. She gonna be just like this. That is putting curse words on kids. Y'all need to stop that shit. Stop comparing your children to somebody else that you don't like. You chose to, like, for one, we can't choose our mothers. We can't choose our parents. Like I told my mother recently, which most people think is cruel. No, it's my truth. But if I had a choice, a cognition of what type of family I would have been indoctrinated in on this earth, I wouldn't have chose her, and I wouldn't chose to be amongst her people, because I don't like none of them. Why I don't like them is the way they treated me. That's why, So it's kind of like when you have a group of people already trying to talk around you about you before you can even conceptualize who you are as a person, even before you could even understand what a self-esteem meant, or even before you could understand, like, what is projection, what is narcissism, what this XYZ means, when you got a group of people always gossiping about, oh yeah, she favor her mom, so she gonna be just like her. No, I didn't. No, I'm not. Now, do I have some of her ways? Sure. Like, for instance, my mother likes to clean. I'm a clean, neat freak. So what? I don't care. And I like my house to be a certain way. I like it brings me mental peace whenever my house is in the best cleaning, organized order. Now, to me, like the mess I got on my countertop, I think it's messy, but so most people like, oh my gosh, it's so clean in here. Like the maintenance guy came over like earlier, and he was like, it smells so good in here, right? That's the first thing he said. And then he also made comments about how clean it is, like I'm one of the few occupants in my apartment that keeps their household clean, which I do, I've always been that way. So yeah, that's a trait I have. I adopted from my mom. I think it's a positive one for me. I don't care. Or let's say, for instance, my mom, I noticed that when I was growing up, she liked going to the gym and riding bikes. I do the same thing. I grew up riding a bike. I grew up liking, to travel or cycle for long distance. I don't see that's a problem. Like she does it. She did it when, I don't think she'd still do it. But when she was younger, she did it. That's how she lost a lot of weight, significant amount of weight in the projects. So I do the same thing. I don't see a problem with it. That's nothing wrong with it. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is that I have had a lot of negative words spoken over me before I even became a teenager. Why? I think it's narcissistic projection. So with that, to me, what I take that to, how I explain that is like, you got a group of people who are in this group, right? You got the group, and they are accustomed to operating toxicity. They may not even be cognitive, like they may not be all the way aware of it, but at some point they know what the fuck they're doing. But as kids, you don't know, like, you're operating in a narcissistic way. You don't know if you're going, carrying the cycles and patterns and stuff like that. So if you got a group of people or a group of family that does that, and you have like one person who looks at it and like, wait a minute, something ain't right here. I don't know what it is, but I don't feel right about this. I don't feel right about talking about everybody or projecting or demonizing somebody who is only a child. Or I don't feel good about, hearing about, like, bringing up somebody else's, story or maybe their past in a gossipy way. That's gossip. That's backbiting. And I never felt comfortable doing it. Now, what I will do is, like I'm doing now, I'm bringing out my truth. So it's not gossip if it's something or event that directly impacts you. Now, if it happens to involve another person, then so be it. If it happens to involve somebody's favorite person or persons, then so be it. But that is my truth. I have the right to share my story based off what I endured by that person in the past or not. That's my story. That's not gossip. But then it's different when you got a group of people gossiping about this person's situation. Like, say, for instance, if they're gossiping about what they heard around the streets about this person sleeping with X amount of people, well, how does that impact you? Does that impact you directly? No. So why are you discussing it? Are you going to be there as their health counselor or sexual health counselor, nurse, primary care doctor, epidemiologist? Are you going to be there to educate, bring awareness, and give them maybe preventative, care to make sure that if they're going to be out there in the streets, then they're protecting themselves? No? Okay, then you're gossiping. You're backbiting. You're not doing anything productive with your life outside of focusing on everybody else's business. Or let's say if they discussing a private health information about something that they speculated, right? Because that's what my mother and her children does a lot. They speculate. They live in this cyclical speculation, projection, all of this stuff, right? And if that speculation, you don't know if that's true or not. You're just speculating. So why not call that person and talk to them, have an honest conversation and try to get to the bottom of it, or shut the fuck up. I don't know. Like, that's the thing. So a lot of times with people in my mother's family, they will project or have projected the worst about what they thought I was going to become, right? Like, for instance, I'm quite sure they thought I was going to become a prostitute. Oh, yeah. Oh, they was open up. I believe a few of them. And it's interesting because, like, it's kind of one of those things, like, I intuitively knew that they were, like, always gossiping about me or projecting, trying to, like, kind of guess what I was going to become based off what? Their own internalized self-hate, their own internalized, low self-worth. Because they ain't had nothing to do with me, because I wasn't showing any signs of walking or making rounds around the street. I never did that, right? I should have sold my coochie for $1 then, because listen, I would have made a lot of money. I would have made a whole lot of money if I was going to do that. I would have made, if I was going to be a prostitute, right, which I never was, because you got bitches giving it up for free, I might as well have made some money out of it. I'm sorry. I'm not even I ain't trying to be facetious, but I'm just saying, I am a little bit. But my point is that why would you sit up here and project that a child who's under the age of 13 is going to turn out to be a prostitute because you speculate that that's what her mom is doing? You don't know that. You're not in that bedroom when she's doing whatever she's doing. That's not even nobody's business. I know, right, Tip? I can't either. And that's why I don't. Because it's like they've been doing that shit to me since I was a child. Projecting I was going to turn out just like my mother. And I'm like, that used to bother me because I'm like, for one, you already impressing shame on me that is not mine to have. Right? Hold on. Give me a second. My tea kettle's going off. Give me 1 second. Like, hold on 1 second. Let me go in. Okay. Alright. Gotcha. So, like, I'm back. So, like, you already impressing shame on me that I did not deserve to have. And by making these negative projected speculations of what, like, that's not tea. I'm making some hot water, Tiffany. I like to make, in fact, I'll show you right quick because I want to see. This is one thing too I got from my mom. I ain't gonna lie. This is a trait that I didn't know I shared with her, but I do. Hold on, give me a second. So I make dishwater and I pour like hot, like steaming hot water in it. I don't know. I like it like that. Whatever. The water here is kind of harsh anyway. Like the tap water is very like dry and they put a lot of corrosive chemicals and shit in it. But it's something I always did. Whatever. Yeah, I did get that from my mother too. Whatever, I don't care. Anyway, but it's just the negative projections of trying to do this predictive, I call it spell casting. So here's the thing. People, I'm going to say, like a lot of these religious Christians believe that spell casting involves doing a whole ritualistic seances. And I'm not saying they can't. It does. Incantations and whatever. It does. However, the way you cast spell on somebody in the simplest terms is just to speak out life or death in the tongue with intention. It says in the Bible. I mean, if you look in the Bible scriptures, and I don't know what scripture it is, it just says it's life. There is life and death in the tongue. Now, it could have been in the book of Proverbs. I'm not quite sure. It sounds like it was. But the point is that when you're casting spells, doing spell work, it don't necessarily have to involve you having a whole damn circle with a cross and a crucifix and all that other stuff in the hair, some piece of somebody's DNA. Not again, there are people, voodoo priestess and stuff, that may use that type of ritual in order to, I guess, do some type of spells that happens. But again, the simplest way to cause a spell is by your mouth. That's why they say curse words, not like the MFUCK words and all of that. I'm talking about when you're when you are speaking negativity out in the universe about a person because you don't like them, or because you don't like their father, and because you don't like their mother, whatever the case is. That is a form of spell casting in its simplest form. That's it. So like you hear the term, like typically you have women who had children by men they didn't want to have children by. Well, I ain't gonna say that. They probably did at some point, but then the male that male figure or whatever decided to treat him like shit, right? So then the mother carries her angst and her grudge towards the child, the male child, oftentimes. So when she say things and make like really negative statements, like you gonna be just like that no good ass your daddy of yours, or you gonna be lazy just like that no good ass bum daddy of yours, that is casting spells. That is spell work, because you have intention on bringing your child, your male child, down due to your anger against the father you chose to sleep with. You chose to sleep with that nigga. He ain't choose to be here. You chose to sleep with that guy at some point, and instead of doing the work, the inner work to address why you chose that male in the first place, or why you chose to get pregnant by that male, a lot of women, okay, that have male children by men who they don't like anymore, what a lot of them do, because I have a male child, but I don't do that to my son. I would never sit up here and compare him to his father, or speak any ill will to him about his father, okay? Because for one, he didn't ask to be here. He asked to have me or his father as his parents. Number two, I chose to marry his father and have children with him. So how dare I sit up here and project it onto my kids, even though I may not have the best feelings or sentiments toward their father. You see how that works? So women, a lot of mothers, not all, but a lot of mothers do this. They have this, y'all got to stop this shit. Stop speaking those spell words over your son. That's curse words. That's the true definition of curse words. Stop it. Because what you're doing, you're projecting, you're telling the universe, you're telling God, the universe, this is what you want for your son's future to be. This is what you want for your son, and you thinking, and you already projecting your son to be that way. So when he turns out to be that way, just keep in mind the words that you said to your son when he was growing up about his father. I don't know, side note, but I'm just using that as an example of the simplest form of spell work and curse words, okay? So that is what's been spoken over me all my life. Oh, Jamie's gonna be like Jackie. Jamie she gonna be just like this. Jamie's gonna be the prostitute. Jamie's gonna be out here. Like they were saying all kind of negative shit about what I was gonna do, right? Like I'm quite sure they speculated I was gonna have 5 children before the age of 21. I ain't have children until I ain't have a child until like the day I turned 25. On my 25th birthday is the first child I bear through, on this earth, right? Because we're using portals to bear children, right? I'm quite sure they wasn't expecting for me to graduate out of high school, or hell, go to college for that matter, right? Because I heard it. I heard some of their curse words they spoken over me in my formative years, and that impacted my self-esteem in a negative way. That made me feel like, dang, first of all, it developed complex in me not liking my mother. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't have her shit about her, but at the end of the day, none of them, they're not perfect, she ain't perfect. And what I've tried to do over the years is try to understand her as a woman, because we all fall short. We all fall short, right? So it's like, instead of sitting up here condemning her for, what she did or what you failed to do. Now, I ain't gonna lie, there's a few items. There's one in particular I really, really am struggling with, because as a mother and parent, I just want to understand how you allow, anyway, I'm gonna have to wait until I get to letter on her to like when I read that letter out loud about her to address that issue. But other than that, it's like everything she did against her own body, or if she may have done, I don't know, I wasn't there, I don't know. You know, anybody that she did this or did that, that's not, I mean, I don't know. It's not for me to judge. That's her life. We all have a life path. There's a few things I did in my past that I'm not proud of. If I could go back in age 21, there's a few, 2 things I would change quickly. You know what I mean? Even recently, I would change that. There's a few things I'm like, you know what? I should never dealt with this motherfucker here. Why did I entertain this piece of shit? I knew better, but I did. And then I'm like, okay, well, Jamie, don't beat yourself up. You know what? It was a lesson. You had to go through it. You had to learn the lesson. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes, you know what they say, heartbreak will fix your vision. Oh, yeah, my vision is clear. It is very clear. So there's a few things I have grappled with myself, even in my marriage. Even with the selection of my ex-spouse. I'm like, dang, why did I choose to marry him? You know what I'm saying? What happened? The first few years was good. Now, you know, then after year 5 and 6, that's when I started noticing the signs of the times. I have a few, you know, I have went back and forth in my mind, regretting staying, you know, should I stay this long? Should I have to, you know, hold on to the marriage? Why did I? But everything, I would say for me, addressing this childhood wound series is going to really help me put things into perspective of why I made the choices in people. Not just in a, you know, these males in a romantic sense, but platonic. Like, I've entertained many women as in friendships, okay, that betrayed me, who flattered me so they could fat me up for betrayal, or who was non-reciprocal. So it's like, I'm to the point now, I'm like, man, fuck these people. I don't want to deal with humans. But I mean, even though that's my bitterness talking, right? I don't want to operate in bitterness, you guys. I don't want to operate in hate, self-hate, because I don't hate myself, okay? I actually like myself. You know, contrary to popular belief, I do like myself. I'm learning to love myself, okay? What up, though, Emmanuel Twin McKnight? And I can't wait to get all this, the letter about respectfully. There is a way to men. These, look, all the fellas. Oh, shoot. Okay, there you go. Without lying, without putting her in a fucking third party, without going back and forth and back. Because the thing is, when you gotta, and this is why I had to learn, and I discussed this in my lives, like maybe last month or the month before last. The reason why I decided not to lie and play games is because when I did it at age 12, I went through the aggravation of having to explain to the other guy's brother for 8 hours on it, 6 to 8 hours on end, like, you know, I'm up here doing damage control. That was taxing. I ain't got tired of that. I ain't doing that no more. And it taught me a lesson. And so when you have these 30 plus, 40 plus year old stinking musty males still playing high school games and think I'm not going to catch them, no, you are sorely mistaken. You guys have to, it is a way to respectfully reject a female if you are involved in a whole relationship with somebody else. You do not have to keep playing this game where you keeping your options open. At this age, you should know who the fuck you want to be with. There should be no confusion, especially if you're talking to that third party person for over 2 fucking years. You should know who you want to be with. If she's not the one you want to be with, then you need to cut her loose and let her move on so she could be with somebody else, or somebody else who's capable to treat her better can do that. I don't understand the selfishness and the psychology behind why these older males that's our age, that's grown as fuck, are still playing high school games. And henceforth, that's another reason why I'm going to address my inner childhood wounds. Well, let me read some comments. Tiff said, Oh, Tiffany said, baby, I'm going through it now. Why lie? Stop wasting my time. It's been 3.5. See, men are selfish as fuck, Tiffany. That's what I'm starting to know. A lot of males, not men. Real men are not selfish. Males are selfish. Males, I call males, to me, a male is a person who is a man in like chronological age. He may be like 35, 40, 35, 41, whatever. But in his mind, he's still 14, 15, stuck in high school mode, wherever. Whoever heard him first in high school or college or whatever, that's where he's stuck at. That is what I call the male. And for me, 2 months is too long. 2 months is too long to be wasting my time. 2 months is too long to be wasting my time. Like, because here's the thing. It does not take long for a whole grown male to know if you're their wife. It just don't. And for me, what I had to do is learn to have better boundaries. I could take accountability for that, right? I had to learn, 444, synchronicity. Anyway, I had to learn to have better boundaries. Because if I don't, these motherfuckers gonna play in my face, tap dance all over my heart, turn it upside down every which way. They would do that because they have not grown as a man to find their purpose. Males who juggle women, in my opinion, are males who had a stunted growth in high school or whatever. They never grew up. They never developed who they were or walked into their manhood. And because they carry a lot of inner childhood wounding themselves, they take that out on everybody else. So they go around wanting to feed into their lustful desires and being with a female or females plural, but yet they bleed all over these women because they have not done the work I'm doing and many others have done, which is addressing their inner childhood wounds. A lot of them have it. They don't want to talk about it. I ain't gonna talk about my business. I ain't gonna share it. Like, go to a therapist. You ain't got to do what I'm doing. It ain't for everybody. You can't, this ain't for everybody to share their, inner childhood wounds to everybody, right? Not everybody got this tough skin I have, right? There's some people they still afraid of people finding out what they did in high school or elementary school or out there in college. Like, I don't give a fuck. Listen, because I don't have a lot of what you call fake friends or fraudulent or people around me, I really don't care what you guys think about me. I don't. Now, dude, does that mean I want y'all to, want to put certain things out there and I'm not going to use discretion and all that? No. But if I decide to share, then I already accepted the consequences that may come. Like right now, I had to wrestle back and forth with, sharing this series with you, going through this series and embarking on sharing my childhood wounds with everybody out in public. And there's going to be people that I know that's going to be against it. Like, Jamie, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I definitely would share it on public, social media. People may think there's something wrong with me mentally because I'm sharing myself out here. This is my truth. Look, because here's the thing, Tiffany and others, whoever's tuning in or will be tuning into my live later on, because I'm about to hop off there because I got things to do. I got shit to do. But here's the thing. Especially in childhood, a lot of the abuses that I endured and suffered from the hands of this person, or because as a result of a decision that the people or the person who was supposed to protect me, or we expect to protect us, right? Like our mothers, fathers, grandparents, whatever have you. Oftentimes we are pretty much gaslit into keeping their secrets, not because it would free us, not because it's our shame to bear, but because they don't want their reputation to be destroyed. They're so concerned about their reputation. But you're not concerned about your child's fucking mental health, their spiritual health being impacted, their physical health, their sense of safety being impacted, but you so fucking concerned about your fucking reputation? that I'm supposed to keep your secret for your reputation to be preserved at the expense of my soul, at the expense of my heartache, at the expense of me beating myself up. That's why you got a lot of people who fall and cave into dependencies such as alcoholism, become abusing different types of drugs, or out there in the streets because they were not endorsed to speak, to be honest about their trauma, acknowledge their trauma, process their trauma, write it out, write their trauma, whatever trauma experience they had and how it impacted them on a personal, mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic level. They have been gaslit to shut the fuck up and not saying that it's not the family. I don't say nothing because, well, that's not their business. It wasn't your business to put me in harm's way, was it? Oh, that was okay for you to allow me, a pedophile, to babysit me. That's cool, right? But it's not okay for me to share my testimony and my story and how that shit impacted me because it happened to me, not you, right? You see how that works? Narcissism at its finest. So, I gotten to the point that I don't give a damn what they think about me. I don't care how many people who may decide to unfriend me. Do it. I tell them, do it. You wasn't my friend anyway. Shit, the fuck? When the last time you called me to congratulate me from when I graduated from college with a 3.6 GPA with 4 children? When's the last time any of those motherfuckers on this friend group on Facebook or has called me to congratulate me and say, good job, Jamie, I'm proud of you. Yeah, you started off, your life may have started off shitty, but you turned fucking lemons into lemonade. Fuck that lemonade. You made a whole fucking cocktail concoction out that bitch. I'll wait. So why should their opinion matter for me? Why should I? Because I used to do this. I had done this for a while because in my mind I was hoping that these people, these family group that I was born into would love on me to one day acknowledge my greatness, acknowledge me, get some validation, get some sense of nurturing, some sense of, I don't know, shit. I don't know. Just like fucking, make me, how do I put it? Just let me know that my fucking existence is of importance. And they never did that. You know what they did? They gossip on me. Any little thing they think they know about me, they went back and told whoever, however, the same people that I may or may not be acquainted with, the same people, and you know what those people did? They treated me based off what they heard from this sibling or that person, not trying to get to know me for themselves. They tried, or if they did try to get to know me, it was fake. It was capped because they was trying to see if they could siphon off information from me so they could go back and tell they mean, See, that's how narcissists work, okay? They develop relationships with people, trauma bond, gossip bond is what I call it. Gossip bond about one person, the person who they scapegoated, which would be me. And then what they would do is they would form a relationship, gossip bonding, trauma bonding, all that shit. Then they will say, hey, so next time you see Jamie, go talk to her. Just talk to her and see what she says. Yeah. So that person can go back to report like they on fucking Paw Patrol or something, and Jamie, she said this about you, she said that, and she said this, and she shared me this and this and that and that. That's how it works. That's how it always worked against me all my life. That's why I ain't say shit. That's for the longest time I ain't talk. Not because I couldn't, but I didn't trust people. Period. I didn't trust people. But now I really don't give a fuck. So whatever. I'm speaking. I don't care anymore. I stopped caring a long time ago. Okay, I stopped. And that's the thing. When you get to that point where you don't care about what people say and how they think about you and whatever you put out there, it is what it is. Either they see some type of courage and they understand it and they receive it and they for what it is, or they not. They can sit up here and bitch and gripe and, why is she sharing this? I wouldn't do it. That's stupid, Karen, not me. Well, then you stay stuck in the cycles that you stay stuck in. But I know for me, my purpose is to let it out so I can move the fuck on. I'm done with this cycle. I'm not doing this shit no more. Not in this lifetime or the next. I'm done. I'm done doing this cycle. I ain't dealing with this no more. Let me read some comments though. Tiffany says, I have made it a point to thank me and not wait for them. Chase on the case. Chase, they need us. The people need us. They need us to spy on everybody else and report what they said about you and what they said about themselves so we could gossip on about it, huh? That's what it is. That's what you got. A lot of people are. Gossip bonders. That's why they love gossip. It's a easy way to have something to talk about instead of addressing themselves, instead of talking about or admitting their flaws, or having to face their flaws, or having to realize that, damn, I haven't been the best person to myself. I haven't been the best person to my child. I haven't been the best person to my mate, my spouse, my husband, whatever. I haven't been the best person to my whoever. Instead of addressing that, they rather gossip on other people because it takes away the attention off of their self-loathing, their internalized self-hate, their internalized lack of self-worth, lack of self-esteem. You know, it takes the attention off of them, right? It's easier to talk about somebody else. It's easier to make up projectiles of what somebody else's future you think it's going to be. And then when they prove you wrong each time, then you got to find something else. They got to go, let's go back in the file. Let's go in the folder. We got to go back in the folder. We got to figure out, okay, you know what? She didn't do this. So we got to figure out what we're going to do. Okay, you know what? Since she's succeeding and winning in life, we got to X her out because she ain't doing what we thought she was going to do. She was supposed to become a crackhead. She was supposed to be out in the streets. She was supposed to be in a homeless shelter. She was supposed to be this. She was supposed to be that. But because she ain't doing none of that, okay, then they got to find a way to ostracize that person because they're not falling, that scapegoated individual like myself didn't fall in line in his suit to what they projected me out to be. But that's curses. And see, when you have the light and the Holy Spirit of God in you, all those curses is going to be none and void. Because if you truly have God in your life, guess what? Every negative tongue that's spoken about you will be silenced and halted. And God is going to prepare. In fact, it says somewhere in the Bible that God will use your enemies as your footstools, right? And also, hey, He's going to prepare the table before your enemies. So any of their curse words they try to speak over me, I'm just letting you guys know now, those who are speaking curse words over me or is gossiping and gossiping about me, just know that none of your gossiping worked on me. It hasn't worked. I don't care. I don't care what you say. I don't think about what you think about me. I don't care because that's how strong and resilient the Lord made me. So I don't care about what people in high school said about me or what they think about me. Because there's a lot of shit I can say and think about and talk about with them. No, I'm not. Because for what? Then don't try me though. Don't try to put my name. Don't try to fuck up my name. Don't let it come back to me that y'all been gossiping about me. Because see, when you try to gossip on and try to destroy me with your lies, the way God don't play about me. So you want to destroy me with your lies, God's going to use the truth to destroy you. You understand? So please be very careful. If you want to gossip about me, just be careful. God hears all. God, the Spirit, Source, the Holy Spirit hears everything you say about me. And He will make it, and God, the Lord, will make it so that I will hear about it. Not because I'm looking for it, not because I care, not because I'm losing sleep, not because of that. Just because your intentions was to use curse words to try to curse me into whatever depravity that you have in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in your spirit. And you want to project your demons onto me. But no, God said no. The Lord I serve says no. Cast all, and let every demon fall. Cast those aside. So just know that the Lord I serve don't play about me. And I will overcome this. And I'm not going to repeat this cycle no more. Not in this lifetime. I'm done. You understand? So, I think I made the points I needed to make today. And do your best to be your best. I'll do the same. Thank you, Tiffany and Emmanuel Twin Unite, for joining me on my live. And yeah. Always remember, I'm doper than a joke. Always. Until next time. Bye. Deuces.